June 27th, 2018. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bonnie, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Bova.
Here.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Here.
Mr. Gottman.
Here.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Here.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Here.
Mr. McIntyre.
Here.
Mr. Ritter.
Here.
Mrs. Warning.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here. Section A, minutes of previous meetings. Could I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Bova. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Section B, bills, financial reports. Mr. Chunk.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Section B, resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves Sections B1 list of bills, B2 monthly financial statements, and B3 budget transfers as listed in Section B, the Wednesday, June 27, 2018 regular board meeting. I would also like to highlight that, as previously indicated at the study session meeting, for the month of June 2018 in Section B1, an additional list of bills was added after study session agenda.
Is there a motion?
Excuse me, Scotty, point of order. Don't we have item number 4? Did we just jump past that? Comments from residents?
You're right.
Did we jump past that?
We did.
Let's finish this and we'll go back.
Okay, sure.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Moved by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Ritter. Questions or comments on Section B? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Cerrucci. Aye. Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye. Motion carries. Does anybody like to comment on agenda items? Is there any residents wish to comment on any agenda items this evening? Do anybody signed up on it?
No one signed up in advance.
Moving on. Section C, items previously tabled. Do we wish to bring that from the table? Scoreboard. Seeing nothing. Section D, personnel agenda. Trish. Trump.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel items agendas 1 through 9 as listed in Section D for the regular board meeting. Under resignations, we do have 8 listed. We have added 1 since the agenda setting meeting, which you'll find at the end. We do wish Mr. Murphy the best of luck, and we thank him for his services and wish him well going forward. Under leave of absences, we have 5 listed. Transfers, again 1. There are no other changes except under Section 6 for early literacy. We did add 1 name, Lauren D. Maria, as needed. Supplemental contracts are the same as the agenda setting, along with volunteers. Under Section 9, elimination of professional positions, that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the elimination of the following professional positions for the 18-19 school year: high school phys ed teacher, high school English, high school math, high school chemistry, elementary music .5, school nurse .5, and English as a second language. As a result of the elimination of positions, therefore be resolved by the Board of School Directors for the Gateway School District as follows. As a result of abolishment of the positions set forth in accordance with Section 5, 524, 1124, and 1125.1 of the Pennsylvania Public School Code of 1949 as amended, the following employees are furloughed, suspended, effective the beginning of the 18-19 school year: Diane McCabe, Math; Rachel Becker, Science; Kevin McManus, Elementary; Melissa Stewart, English. We omitted Keith Revak's name, so he will be added there. Return to furlough for 18-19 school year is Robert Finkel, Brittany Vasco, Alyssa McMahon, and Carly Preffer. Fortunately, out of this list, we are able to recall all but 3 of the teachers for the upcoming year. So we have positions. We will do postings tomorrow at 2 o'clock for all those eligible.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Lapsevich. Comments or questions?
Yeah, I have just a question about item 9. Elimination of the half position for the elementary music and the half position for the school nurse.
Yes.
What does that leave us with coverage-wise? Obviously, the nurse being, I think, maybe more prudent, but
Well, in the budget, we do have position to add a half. We went from a full-time nurse to a part-time nurse, so we will
Okay.
be replacing that position with a part-time position.
and are we required to have a nurse in each building every
Not
hour
for
of the
each
day?
building, we are required for one for every 1,500 students.
So not in every building?
No,
Okay.
it is by pupil count.
Okay. And then for the elementary music, we basically had 2 teachers splitting one position. They were bouncing between the 4 elementaries.
No, that was a
Previously.
part-time person that we hired as a part-time music teacher who did go in between buildings. We think between the staffing and their schedules that we can do that with what we currently have.
Okay, so there shouldn't be any loss in
We do not anticipate
musical
that.
enrichment?
No, we do not anticipate it.
Right. Okay. I figured as much. I just wanted to at least
Sure.
have that, said in public, so, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, Bonnie?
Mr. Gottman. Dr. Kalkstein.
Yes to section 1 through 8, while staying on section 9.
Sorry, one minute, please. Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye. Thank
Motion
you.
carries. Section E, conferences and conventions.
Dr. Chaky?
Thank you, Dr. Short. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves and authorizes the following conferences and conventions at the regular board meeting of Wednesday, June 27th. For item 1, we have 3 conferences and conventions as listed.
Is there a motion?
Yeah,
So
I'll make that
moved.
motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bova, second by Mr. McIntyre. Questions or comments?
How is Seven Springs, Mrs. Crum?
It's not till next week.
Oh, it's not till next week? Okay. Well, enjoy.
Thank you, especially it's free, so that's good.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, Bonnie?
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich. Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci. Mr. Gottman.
Motion carries. Section F, administrative resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I'm going to be bouncing around between Dr. Rossi and Mr. Schott for a number of items.
It was resolved that the Gateway School Board of School Directors approves and authorizes as appropriate the following items, 1 through 23 as listed. Number 1 is final approval of new textbooks for the new AP English course as listed. Number 2, we have a 30-day public display for grade 8 physical science from CK12 Foundation. Number 3 is an affiliation agreement. Carlow University is depicted in Exhibit A. Number 4 is we accept the invitation to participate in the multi-tiered system of support math cohort series to represent the Western region. The district will receive a $10,000 stipend. And number 5 are facility agreements, 3 of them as listed.
Item number 6, as approval of increases for student lunch and student breakfast prices for the 2018-2019 fiscal year is depicted below. Item number 7 is approval of the final cafeteria fund budget for the 18-19 fiscal year as depicted below in the total amount of $1,958,000. Item number 8 is approval of the final general fund budget for the 18-19 fiscal year. Approve and adopt the final general fund budget for the 18-19 fiscal year in the amount of $75,312,000, reflecting a net decrease in expenditures of $437,000, or 0.58% less than the general fund budget for the 17-18 fiscal year. The final general fund budget does include an increase in the district's real estate tax millage rate. Thus, the real estate tax millage rate will increase from 19.3264 mils by 0.5411 mils to 19.8675 mils for the 2018-2019 fiscal year. The 19.8675 mills is the equivalent of $1.98675 on each $100 of assessed valuation of a taxable real estate property in the district. Please note that there was a change from the study session meeting. As we indicated previously, we were still looking at the budget both in terms of revenues and expenditures, and we were able to get the amount required to balance the budget down to just the real estate tax increase and not an additional amount of fund balance. That amount we've been able to whittle down over the months. I think as the one number that sticks out in my mind as of June 5th at the final public hearing, that number was $621,000. And again, we were able to reduce that amount down to zero additional amount of fund balance. Again,
From
to balance
last
the
week,
budget.
Mr. Schott, how much did we whittle that number down? It was near,
I want to say probably from the study session, probably about at least $150,000, and I think as of what was reported in the Friday packet, it was down to $166,000. So we were able to make up $166,000 just in the last couple of days. I just want to highlight that. Item number 9, related to the budget, is the approval of homestead and farmstead exclusion real estate tax assessment reduction for 2018, specifically for the 8,101 approved homesteads by Allegheny County. Each of those will receive a reduction in the assessed value of $9,077.64, which amounts to an actual reduction on the real estate tax bill of $180.35. Item number 10 is approval of payment of the Section B1 list of bills for the month of July 2018. Item number 11, extension of the current liquid propane gas service agreements with Feral Gas for the 1920 fiscal year. Item number 12, award the milk bid for the 2018-2019 fiscal year to Turner Dairy Farms Incorporated, as depicted in Exhibit B. Item number 13, agreement for continued participation in the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services administered school-based access program for the 18-19 fiscal year, as depicted in Exhibit C. Item number 14, acceptance of district donations received for the 17-18 fiscal year, specifically donations received from Let's Move Pittsburgh Champion Schools Grant Program, Phipps Conservatory and Botanical Gardens. Second donation, miscellaneous contributors organized by Tiffany Pitts. And a third item added after the study session, office furniture donated by Rizzo International Incorporated. Item number 15, approval of Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV federal funds. And actually, this should be final allocation amounts for the 18-19 fiscal year. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a different resolution. No, this is correct. This is preliminary allocation amounts for the 18-19 fiscal year in the total amount of $929,233. Item number 16 is acceptance of Federal IDEA Section 619 pass-through funds and approval of use of funds agreement and preliminary budget with the Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3 for the 18-19 fiscal year in the amount of $3,211 and is depicted in Exhibit D. Item number 17 is acceptance of Federal IDEA Part B pass-through funds, again through the Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3 for 18-19 fiscal year in the amount of $732,854 and is depicted in Exhibit E. Item number 18, approval of educational services with Holy Family Institute for the 18-19 fiscal year as indicated below in the amount of $149 per scheduled school day. Item number 19, approval of agreement and payment for professional development services, Step-by-Step Learning LLC, Title II, Part A federal funds for the 17-18 fiscal year in the amount of $8,590. That's depicted in Exhibit F. Item number 20, this was added after study session meeting, approval of Head Start and Pre-K Counts food service contract through the PDE 3086 with the Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3 from September 1st, 2018 through August 31st, 2019. That is depicted in Exhibit G. Item number 21, also added after study session meeting, approval of Ariston Architecture to assist with the milling and paving bid specifications for the Gateway Campus Boulevard paving repair project for the 18-19 fiscal year. That is in the amount of $2,200. Item number 22, again also added after the study session meeting, is revised policy number 246, student wellness, to be placed on 30-day public display as depicted in Exhibit H. Item number 3, also added after study session meeting, is the e-signature resolution for e-grants as depicted below. section F.
You could take a drink of water there, Paul.
Can you repeat all that, please?
We need a motion. We need a motion.
Need a motion?
John makes the motion to accept.
Is there a second?
John?
Motion by Mr. Ritter, second by Mr. Bova. Questions or comments?
I have a question for Paul. On item, I think it's 9-1A. 9-1A. It talks about the use of gambling tax funds. It says the Pennsylvania Department of Education has notified the school district that they will pay to the school district during the school year pursuant to some act here as a property reduction allocation funded by gambling tax funds, the amount of almost $1.5 million. So I have a moral problem with this. Now, in the past years, it has slid by me. I'm trying to do my level best to try to keep the kids, the staff, the parents, the citizens free from moral vices. This is what I consider this, moral vices like this, which can lead to destruction. Gambling when used well, or games of chance when used well, can be fun, like playing, hearts with your family and friends, games of chance. But sometimes it can really destroy a family, right? Drive the kids to where they don't have anything to eat. The parents gamble, they're homeless, and those effects sometimes pour back into the schools where the kids can't sleep. Their grades start to go down. We have to find social workers to go out to the house to help the folks out. So it looks to me like there's a vicious cycle trap in there with just this line item being on the budget. Now, I surely don't want to throw away $1.5 million that's due to us from the use of this mechanism. On the other hand, I think it creates chaos, and I'd like to try to find a way to strike it, give it back, find a different way to get the monies. But I don't know how to do that. So I'm asking you from the financial perspective, is it even reasonable for me to try to abstain or vote no on this line item? Will such a vote even make sense?
Well, just a little bit of background on these funds. These are strictly pass-through funds. These are revenue neutral to the district. This would actually be the 11th year in a row that we've been able to pass through these funds. So if the gaming funds are not available, we don't receive the funds, we can't pass them on to those individuals who have approved homesteads in the district. So again, there's a zero net effect to the district for that. Again, this was from a decision made by the state legislature to utilize this funding mechanism to try to provide some property tax relief to those eligible homesteads.
Okay, so from a strictly financial perspective, it's simply money moving from one bucket to another.
Right.
From the moral perspective, it plants the seeds of devastation. It's like receiving tax money for opioids and cocaine abuse.
Except those
Right.
things aren't legal and
Right, that's the
various
thing.
forms of gambling are. So
Right.
it's not really.
So that's
like
my concern.
So why don't you just abstain from that part or vote no on that part, and then people will know that you're morally opposed to gambling, but yet we can still use other people's vices to offset taxes for our seniors.
Okay, so that's a good remedy. I would also like to go and complain to our state General Assembly and to the governor that I have trouble with this.
Is everyone okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
I would question that because you're kind of going representing the Gateway School Board in that capacity.
Right.
And if that's not the flavor of the board, I'm not sure that we're
Right.
comfortable with you making that presentation. What I would respond, I mean, I understand your concerns. Gambling's an issue. But I feel like this is maybe a slippery slope.
Right.
Because we get tax money from Giant Eagle. And they sell beer.
Cigarettes, right.
Cigarettes.
And lottery tickets.
We get tax money from office buildings that have doctor's offices that prescribe opioids. If we
We're going to
start
get property tax from the
from
marijuana place.
dispensary, if we start whittling away at things that we're not comfortable with,
We'll have no money.
we're not going to have any money. So while I understand your concern, I think a moral way to look at this is people are going to gamble.
Yeah.
Whether we take this money and reallocate it or not, we're at least getting something positive out of it, and members of our community can benefit.
And that's the part I agree
There's a
with.
positive spin to it.
Right, but I don't like the fact that I'm put in a position where I have to agree with that. So I think I feel comfortable
have to agree.
abstaining, and I think I feel comfortable representing myself as an individual and not as a member of the board to our elected representatives.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I got two questions. I'll start with the easiest one. Item 21 for the architecture. So my question is, are they teaming up with somebody else for the milling and paving, or are they solely doing the milling and paving?
No, actually, they would just be providing some assistance for us to put the bid specs together. That was based on some conversation Mr. Brown and I had in terms of talking about that. They have the expertise in terms of helping us put their specifications together so we can put a packet out on the street. And we also did get another quote from another current vendor we're utilizing. It was significantly higher than that. And based on that quote and getting this quote, we thought this was a very reasonable price for this limited assistance they're going to provide.
All right. Okay. Now, the other question I have is all the way in item number 8, involving our general fund balance, or general fund budget. So I was going through our budget here, and I just want to disclaimer that I'm not knocking any programs. You know, yeah, I'm not taking the Bob Nutting approach. You know, as we see with the Pirates, that just does not work well. I'm just wanted to get an understanding. So one of the big ones, there's two parts I found that were pretty big. One was with athletics. I was just looking over, and the amount of money roughly that we're spending on jerseys and other clothing apparel is about $26,000. And I found a chart where they're doing like a 4-year cycle of the jerseys. And I used to be the equipment manager for our basketball team up at Pitt. Granted, we were D3, but it's still owned by Pitt. And the jerseys that we had, we were using them a lot longer than 4 years. And I understand with sports, there's wear and tear and all that, but you know, we're looking to order jerseys and uniforms for the entire team when some of these are still within their projected 4-year range, as well as some other items which, like the Nike dry fit undershirts, which I don't see any, point to that where we have to pay for that. I understand jerseys, equipment, but that is just something I'm a little curious on for spending that. So I just wanted to know if this is something that's really necessary to do for this year. I don't know if I should get with the athletic director, if anybody has any input on that one.
I think one suggestion would be, I think is something we suggested with the hockey jerseys, is a senior buyout program, whereas a senior, your jersey means a lot to you. It's something we did, when I went to high school. I bought my jerseys after my senior year, and then each year you're replacing those jerseys, but you're getting money within the system to replace them. So we don't necessarily have to go full stop and replace everything every 4 years. Something like that, I think, can save some money.
Okay.
Or increasing the rotation.
Right.
4 to 5 or 6 years.
Would that be something we should do a motion now, or can that be done later?
I think before they actually buy the jerseys, it'll come before the board again, correct?
Well, they'll be approved, but what I was thinking in terms of the conversation going, maybe that should be something maybe the athletic committee should take a look at.
That's an excellent suggestion.
Okay, we'll do that. And the other question I have is with technology, and can I request Mr. Brown? Miko.
Mr. Brown.
If he can make it. All right, thank you. Yeah, and I don't know if you heard, I'm not knocking any programs here, just got some questions.
Just you.
Okay, so looking at the technology budget, obviously technology is expensive. All right, so some things I was looking at, wanting to know if it's feasible. So we have headphones we're purchasing, and we're purchasing earbuds. Now, I know with headphones, depending on which kind you get, you can replace the foam around the ear, or it might be the bigger ones where you can't do that. Which ones were you looking to get?
So the earbuds specifically are for special ed, and they're assigned to a student, so it stays with them, which is why they're so cheap. The ones in the elementary schools, they're the big headphones. We're buying those more for durability, and they can be covered with, they have like sanitary covers, or you can actually replace the foam around them.
All right, so do we currently have headphones right now?
We have a few sets. These are to, so in the elementaries when they got the Chromebooks, they didn't get any headphones with that, so they're using the speakers built in. That's what they're for. So they have some headphones, but not enough for a whole class set.
Okay, so this would be for the first time ever getting a class set.
For those mobile devices, yeah. We've had them in the computer labs in the past, but again, those were falling apart. So when we replaced the labs, there was no point in pulling them out again.
Okay, and I guess my last question for you is, with we have like a ton of leases for like copiers or something.
Yes, those are up actually January of not this upcoming school year, but the following school year. All those contracts will be renegotiated next summer, and they'll all be replaced all at the same time.
All right. Would it be cheaper or more cost efficient rather to just buy them instead of having to lease them out?
For the printers, probably yes. For the copiers, probably no. The reason is you have to be certified to work on those copiers, and we get a what the bill would be if we were to pay, say, Konica to come out and work on them, and it's several $100s just to even look at something like a deep paper jam, and then you're talking about more for parts. So for the actual copy machines, leasing is probably the way to go. For the smaller printers, we can almost do anything. It's just sometimes it's cheaper when you bundle the printers in with the copiers.
Okay.
But that will be looked at when we renegotiate the whole contract as one.
All right, that'd be a good time to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, Micah, before you leave, I was going to say this in my board report, but tomorrow is Micah's birthday, and I just wanted to wish him happy birthday. He's our main guy down in our tech department with the help of Jesse and Sean and Barry. But Micah, thanks for everything, and have a good birthday tomorrow.
Well, thank you.
50 years old, Mike. You look good.
Quite that.
Happy birthday.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we have a roll call.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Yes, but no to number 8.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye, except on 9-1A, I abstain.
I'm sorry, one moment, please. Mrs. Warning.
Aye to all but 8.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye to all except 8.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Section G, resolutions presented by board members. Val.
Resolved that the Gateway School Board approves and authorizes the following items. So approval to support the Gateway High School Robotics Club for the 18-19 fiscal year, to approve the support of the club via transfer $5,000 to the high school activity fund from the general fund during the 17-18 fiscal year.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Warning, second by Mr. Bova. Questions or comments?
Question, have we been able to collect any more funds from the general public? I know, Mary Beth, you were working on some.
500 from Rotary. At this point, that's all that I'm aware of. Anybody else?
All right, so is it okay, Scotty, for me to say again, if there's anyone out there in the general public, if you've got a software or some sort of high-tech industry and you'd like to support the robotics team, step forward. $250, $500, we'll take whatever you have. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, Vaughn?
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
No.
Motion carries. Number two?
Thank you.
Who's number two?
Mr. Gottman.
Mr. Gottman?
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Item number 2, resolution of Gateway School District establishing a policy concerning expenditures of the Gateway School District. Whereas the Pennsylvania School Code requires board approval for any expenditure over $100.00, and whereas actual incurred and proposed to be incurred expenditures come up during the month, oftentimes after the study session, but before the regular meeting. And whereas the Board of Directors of Gateway School District may see actual incurred and proposed to be incurred expenditures after the study session for the first time at the regular board meeting and have no time to consider the same in a deliberative fashion. And whereas it is recognized that the administration may well have actual incurred and proposed to be incurred expenditures that need to be approved following the study session, but before the regular meeting, and have them considered for adoption at the regular meeting. Now, therefore, be it resolved and enacted, possibly this day. Section 1, any proposed to be incurred expenditures by district as presented by the administration, in Section F, administration resolutions. On the meeting agenda after the study session, but before the regular meeting, when such proposed to be incurred expenditures are presented for approval at the regular meeting, shall require a supermajority, which is 6 votes, by the Gateway School Board to be passed at the regular meeting. However, a supermajority will not be required for those actual incurred expenditures previously incurred by the district and presented by the administration in the additional Section B1 list of bills on the meeting agenda added after the study session but before the regular meeting. Section 2, all resolutions or parts of resolutions which are inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. And Section 3, if any section, clause, provision, or portion of this resolution shall be held invalid or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not affect any other section, clause, provision, or portion of this resolution so long as it remains legally enforceable minus the invalid portion. Thank you.
That is a tremendous resolution.
So,
Second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gottman, second by Mr. McIntyre.
If I can
Questions or
distill that
comments?
30-minute
I was gonna do it, but go ahead.
description of legalese, this is, I think, in essence, just an expansion of the current transparency policy that was passed last year that just, indicated that the board, board resolutions fell under that policy. We're looking to expand that to include anybody that wants to spend money here has to give the board basically a heads up and give us time to look at it. But obviously there are emergency things that come up between study session and regular meetings. And we've, I think, accounted for that with the supermajority.
Yeah, and last week when this was presented, we had to make a little adjustment. We worked with Paul here to, for Section B1, there are bills that, need to be paid, like we can't not pay our gas bill. So those things are exempt from this, but it's just applying to any new expenditures that we're going to be looking at. Just so, like, for example, we come in on a regular meeting and now we're seeing a $100,000 item being put on there. If we just vote on without doing our due diligence, then that's looking to be a little fiscally irresponsible with taxpayer money. So we just want to, with everything coming up, in the future, we just want to make sure that we're taking the time and doing our due diligence with our expenditures. So,
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, Barney?
Mrs. Warning?
Can I make a motion to table this for further discussion? Sure. Mr. Dice?
You can make a motion, you have to get a second.
We just made a motion.
Yeah, second.
Motion by Ms. Warning, second by Mr. Lapsevich. We have a roll call.
Mrs. Warning?
This is the table, yes.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Mr. Bova?
Yes.
Mrs. Cerucci?
No.
Mr. Gottman?
no.
Dr. Kalkstein?
No.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
No.
Mr. Ritter.
Based on the rationale provided, no.
Motion carries not to table. Table fails.
Motion
Table
fails.
fails.
Bonnie, the motion failed, correct?
It failed.
Motion
yes.
to table failed, so we have the motion in a second. Currently,
Now you vote on the substantive motion that's on the floor to approve.
yeah. Do you have questions about it, Val, or?
Do you want to have any discussion before we
Now
vote?
would be a good time for
Right.
you to convince John why this would be a good,
Actually, it's not, because the vote already
Yeah, you already.
No.
No.
The vote to
We're
table
allowed to have
happened.
discussion on the
right, so now we're back to the vote. Yeah.
resolution at this time.
So if there's a good reason to table it, I'd like to hear that so that I could make the motion to table it. I'm allowed to do that, but I don't know why. What's the rationale?
My question is, it's just, I'm just concerned with anything that the district may need at the last minute. Is there going to be a phone call coming? I mean, you're saying $100. There's so much that they spend through budgets and everything. Is it going to be everything that goes through the accounting department that's over $100 that we're going to have to approve for that to go through? Is that what you're looking for?
Well, I think if
No,
I can.
I'm asking Brian. 'Cause
Okay.
Brian's bringing this up.
All right.
Yeah, it's, things that aren't, as I said, like with the list of bills, like that's stuff that has to be taken care of. The new stuff that's coming on, some of it, has to be done. And it's not to say that we can't vote on at the regular meeting when we're seeing for the first time. It's just that, it's, if we're looking at spending, this is taxpayer money. It's not just our money that we're paying for taxes. It's everyone's in Monroeville and Pitcairn. So I feel we should be responsible making sure we're doing our due diligence. Like if we don't have time to see something, then we should be more encouraged to table it unless we're certain that it needs to be spent. And I mean, from what I've seen on the board since I've been here, a lot of times we get a majority vote anyways, more than just 5 votes. So, if something's looking sketchy that, we're not too comfortable with, I mean, this should be encouraging to table it so we do become comfortable with it. So this is taxpayer money, not our personal money. So I just want us to be responsible with it and making sure we're doing our due diligence.
I have a question for Mr. Schott. Are you comfortable with the language as far as it enabling you to continue to do your monthly regular bill paying?
Most certainly, and actually it turned out to be a very good vehicle for us to be able to present officially the Section B1 additional items, so I'm all in favor for it.
Yeah, I think there was, based on your comments at the last meeting, there was actually, I think, an amendment made to this resolution coming into tonight, and I think it all meshed pretty well.
I think it really accomplishes all the tasks.
Yeah.
So it doesn't affect, sorry, John, it doesn't affect Val's concern of any item that's over $100 has to have a supermajority. What it really does is it just makes last minute items require 6 votes instead of 5.
Correct.
Things that were added that were not on the study session need 6 votes instead of 5.
If we're going to vote to spend money, we need to be as knowledgeable as possible. So it's just basically a provision to keep things from getting kind of snuck in at the last minute and us voting without really having a clue about what's going on.
Right, to your concern, Brian, we surely don't want to move too fast, but on the other hand, we surely don't want to move too slow when we need to be able to be agile. So this covers both. I'm comfortable with Paul's response. I'm comfortable with the form of the resolution. So I think we're ready to vote. I have no more discussion items.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Bonnie, clear roll call.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
No.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye on Mr. Schott's approval. Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Comments from residents on non-agenda.
No, there's still more.
There's still more here, buddy.
There is?
Number 3, Mr. Ritter's motion.
Kind of blends in with my
Apologize,
lengthy
John.
resolution.
Very good. Item number 3, guys. This is the Pennsylvania School Board Platform Committee needs to consider some certain items to be brought forward by school board members at next week's meeting. So I'm asking this board if they could send me with this item that the PSBA could put on their agenda to consider for next year. And so here's the text. It says, the Gateway School Board of Monroeville, Pennsylvania encourages the Pennsylvania School Board Association Platform Committee to consider incorporating into next year's, that's the 2018-2019 legislative platform, as a component of their list of legislative priority issues for the next year, the next session of the Pennsylvania General Assembly, the concept of the use of telehealth and telemedicine in Pennsylvania schools.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ritter, second by Mr. McIntyre. Questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Helkstein.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. McIntyre?
I'd like to make a motion to amend Section 000 of Local Board Procedures, number 004. I would like to amend that, I think it's worded a little bit vaguely, and I think this would prevent possible conflict of interest on the board in the future.
Policy.
Can you read it to us, please?
Well, I don't have the actual, do you have the original wording of it? Okay. The original wording, I believe, was, except as provided by law, she, he, meaning school board member, shall not be engaged in a business transaction with the school district, be employed by the school district, or receive pay for services from the school district. I would like to amend this to add all of the aforementioned and add, or work on site for the school district for any subcontractor for the district. In other words, if you're on this board, you cannot work and be paid in the district. I think it's an immediate conflict of interest because everything we vote on here, even if we just voted on the budget, which includes money that would be going into your pockets. So I think that's an immediate conflict of interest, and I would just like to see this clarified under our current policy to avoid any future conflicts.
So let me give you an concrete example of that. I was a volunteer, that's an unpaid position, for the track team this year, and I happened to serve a couple times in the booth, that is collecting statistics and pounding the data into the computers. So the people that do that get money for doing it, like $40 for that service. It's like a referee. You could pay a referee for their service during an athletic event. Well, these volunteers do get some money. So I waived it because I performed the service, but I didn't feel comfortable. I thought it would be a conflict of interest receiving money for having served as a volunteer because I'm on the school board.
You can serve as a volunteer, but you can't get paid currently
getting paid,
by
you're no
the
longer
district at
volunteer.
all. That's already against board policy. No school board member can be paid by the district in any way.
This just expands it to things like Kelly Services.
Okay.
You know what I mean? If you're going to work for Kelly Services, you can work in any school district other than Gateway.
So I am happy adding that provision because that would have reduced the lack of clarity that I had. In other words, I had to be alert to not receive that money and refuse it from the coach, because otherwise it had just shown up in my mailbox. I didn't want it to show up in my mailbox. So this would clear that up a little bit. Thank you.
Can I bring something up real quick? This came up because I was talking to Mrs. Crump a couple weeks ago and said how much I miss working with the students. And Mrs. Crump says, well, you can work, me personally, because I did work for the district over 20 years before getting on the school board. She says, I could very well employ myself, go through Kelly Services and be employed as a third party. So I went through all the process and everything, and we were out after our last meeting, it came up, and then all of a sudden it's a big thing. Now, Mrs. Crump, am I correct in you saying I was able to go through Kelly Services?
Any member of the community can apply to Kelly Services. The district cannot block anyone from being an employee of Kelly Services.
You also said that I was eligible to work for Gateway if necessary, if temporary or, they needed substitute, paraprofessional, secretary, whatever. Am I correct in saying that?
There is nothing in place that would prohibit that at this time.
Mr. Dice then said that he would look into it, not at my suggestion or anything. He took that upon himself last week and came back with Mr. Dice, if you would like to.
I rendered an opinion to Val that indicated that, it said several things, but there is a case out there that talks about a member of school board working for an AIU, and that school board that he was a member of also employed the AIU. The court said that was okay, that was not incompatible. I suggested some other things in the memo to her about how to deal with this. There is no case law that gets any closer that I could find. She could work for Kelly Services, and under that case, it appears she may well be able to work for the district. That I told her, however, that could also be challenged, and I'm not sure that the courts would take up that same type of thinking if a challenge was made if she worked at Gateway. Nothing stops her from working for Kelly Services in other jurisdictions, other school districts, and certainly that would not be a conflict. I hear Mr. McIntyre saying that he wants to change the language in a policy. Am I right, Rick?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. And just so we all know, that's one of those 7-day rule things that we have to. Of course, if you have 6 votes, that overrules that.
Correct.
7-day or the 7-day notice. What I'm hearing you say is that you don't want school board members to be able to work for contractors that contract with the district under any circumstance.
No, they can. You as a board member, you can work for Kelly Services.
Right, but you can't work at Gateway.
Mrs. Crump, do you know of any other examples of Kelly Services in particular that they employ school board members at any other districts?
I reached out to them. They have only had one other instance when a school board member applied to Kelly Services, but they had abstained themselves from working in their current district.
That was Woodland Hills, correct?
Yes, it
And
is.
the board member cited a conflict of interest as a reason for
Yes.
working for Kelly Services, but making it clear that they would not be able to work within the district that they serve.
Yes.
Rick, may I ask you, is it reason for me, or do you feel that I would want to continue to keep Kelly Services, or is there another reason? My reason for wanting to work back in the district is I didn't want to leave in the beginning. I miss working with these kids. You have no idea what it's like. I'm not doing it for the money.
That's an assumption. I do know what it's like.
Okay, that's an assumption. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because it's a big void. I still have my job that I'm working for, but this would be in addition to it.
Well, can I make a recommendation?
You may do whatever.
Can you serve as a volunteer?
I do volunteer for the district
I know,
right now.
I mean, I think if you volunteer in roughly the same capacity, I think it eliminates all conflict of interest.
I don't.
Okay, well,
Well, because the spirit of the policy and the law, just from what you have here, the policy says, just so everybody can get up to speed with us, except as provided by law, board members shall not be engaged in a business transaction with the school district, be employed by the school district, or receive pay for services from the school district. And then section 324 of the state code says no school director during the term for which he was elected or appointed be employed in any capacity by the school district in which he is elected or appointed, or receive any pay for services rendered to the district except for exceptions that they give in the act. I think that you have to look at the spirit of that law. Is this a conflict of interest? I have no problem if Val works for Kelly Services. The question is whether she works in the Gateway School District, and she's working with teachers, faculty, and principals, of whom she also is determining salaries, layoffs, votes, budgets. It's a huge conflict of interest, Val. I'm sorry that you missed the kids, but I definitely think if you look at the spirit of the law, tell me why is it that you think that board members are not supposed to be employed by the district? What, in your opinion, why do you think that, why is that in there? Why shouldn't a board member be employed by the district?
I'm not saying I'm not being employed by the district. You're saying I'm being employed by
saying-
Kelly Services if it goes through.
Yeah, but it's you're working on site. It's just who's paying your
Mary Beth,
paycheck.
when you go into work, I don't sit there and talk to teachers or to principals or to the educators about salaries or what it is. I work with children. I mean, that's my job.
But
when
you're
I
not
go in.
building relationships with other staff members who you, essence,
try
are
not to.
overseeing their
I try
contracts.
not to,
And
no.
you're gonna have to abstain then from any
That's fine
vote
with me.
that has to do with Kelly Services, that has
That's
to do
fine.
with special ed, that has to do with
That's fine, Mary
clerical,
Beth.
that has to do.
That means
Well,
you
that
can't-
makes
that
you
means
a
you can't vote on the
non-functioning
budget.
board member.
You're making something out of something that shouldn't be.
I disagree.
I agree completely.
I agree. This all came up at an after, excuse me?
What were the numbers?
Sorry?
What were the policy numbers? I'd like to look it up.
It's under local board procedures, which is the first section, 000, number 004. Is
Mrs.
the
Crum.
current policy. But if we can go back to what Mary Beth said about objecting to the volunteer status, I'm not sure why that would be a conflict. As Mr. Ritter pointed out earlier, he volunteers with the track, the track team. I don't view that. I think the spirit of the policy that we have, which I think just needs to be clarified, and definitely the spirit of the state code is that you cannot receive money that you are voting on allocating. You understand?
Yeah,
Like,
you see it differently than I do. I see it as a conflict of her actually being on a board and then being coworkers with people that she's kind of overseeing.
Well, then,
as
I
a
mean,
conflict.
if that's the case, then Mr. Ritter's been in a conflict for quite some time.
But sports,
I don't see it
sports
that
is
way.
extracurricular. We're talking
True.
about an everyday employment
understand.
with faculty.
But
Does anybody else have any comments on
Let me
this?
just say it again. She's not, and again, I don't want to argue a position here because this is clearly something that everybody has their own personal opinion about. But recognize from a legal standpoint, she's working, she gets a paycheck, not from Gateway, but from Kelly Services. And she's not working for Gateway. However, clearly, if Rick's language is adopted, she would not be able to work for Kelly Services because you've included that direct or indirect situation. But in the literal sense, she is not working for Gateway School District. I know how it appears, and I said that into my memo to her, that there is that appearance, but from a legal standpoint, she could do it. With the change in the policy, she would not be able to do it.
What does the invoice look like, Mrs. Crump, when you pay Kelly Services? Does it name people specifically, or how many hours they work, or?
What you all see is just the total amount. The invoices that are presented, we break it down by account codes, and that's what the board sees.
Yeah.
It's just the total amount and the account code it's charged to. The individual bill that we do receive weekly is by week, by date. It lists the teacher or the employee's name and then the person who subs,
And
along with the amount that we
let me
pay.
say one more thing, just that there's a gentleman on Penn Hill School Board who is a member, he works for the AIU. It's the exact same situation as the case. And he is a school board member. Penn Hills uses the AIU. On every vote that's taken that has anything to do with the AIU, he abstains. And he does that every meeting, and he goes through it. And it's burdensome, but he's taken on that burden, so he does that.
Right, so first of all, Val, this is not a personal thing. This isn't, it's not. I know you're not going to believe that. It's just that this.
Well, why
this
can't you just
discussion-
work
this-
for Penn Trafford or Franklin or Plum?
Mary Beth, can I please? What all this did was just bring up, I think, a vague area in the wording of our policy. Because it's nothing against you. It really isn't. I just think that finding this loophole to get back into working in the district is, and I understand why you want to do it, but I think I just think it's an egregious conflict of interest. And you even agreed a minute ago that you would be then forced to abstain on voting on the budget. Am I right?
I didn't say budget.
Yeah, you did.
We were talking on a specific person that I would be employed by. Mary
Yes.
Beth kept saying teachers and contracts and everything. I'm not there to discuss that, is what I'm saying. The only thing that I would abstain from is what Mr. Dice had said would be anything to do with Kelly Services. That's,
Which is included in our budget.
that I would abstain from the
We're
Kelly
voting
Services.
on our budget. And is that what you're saying? you understand that
You could single that.
the
You could
single
choose to
largest
single that.
responsibility we have as board members
I could single
is
that
the
one out.
budget.
I could single the Kelly services out.
And this
And the budget.
board can also vote no not to hire her.
I mean, you can
No,
go
we
back to
can't.
Kelly Services and say you don't want her.
That's going beyond the spirit of what we're after here. We're after clear language.
Right, we're just after clarity.
Well,
And-
Mr. Dice, could you comment on what Trish said? She did say that the school board, Val, if Val was employed by Kelly Services, her name would be on the invoice that the district is paying. Is that outside the bounds of no employee in any capacity
That's the phrase that
can
that
receive
I keep
funds?
hanging
Because
on,
if you
Mr.
have
Dice.
an invoice from Kelly Services to Gateway School District, and right there it has a school board member's name,
How is that not violating?
Then let's ask Trish who she writes the check to.
Check is written to Kelly Services.
Okay, so there's the kicker. I mean, the problem is the fact that you have a contractor that employs one of your school board members. There's not a direct conflict there. Now, if you adopt Rick's language, there can be an indirect conflict that would be prohibited. But without that language, I think that legally she's within her right to do that. Again, the AIU demonstrates names in their reports and bills, and we pay them. And I suggest to the individual in Penn Hills, you must abstain on that particular line item. I would be doing the same to Val.
So Kelly Services also provides clerical services, so if I want to be a secretary under Kelly Services at Ramsey Elementary, that would be okay?
If you wanted to,
Yeah.
yeah.
So all of us could apply for jobs at Kelly Services, and we could all work with all of you in the schools. That would be
And
great,
I'm not,
right?
I'm not saying that it's a good thing, it just so happens that in the law, I don't think there's a direct conflict.
Can I interrupt 1 second? Just repeat that one more time. This whole debate's been semi-entertaining. Do the last legal part, please.
Okay, I'm saying to you, and I don't like to be redundant, and I'm starting to feel redundant about this. This is not a conflict under the law, unless you change the language.
If you think it's a conflict, you have to change the board policy.
That's why Rick has suggested a board
I am
policy.
suggesting it, Bruce, and I respectfully disagree with your interpretation. I think the phrase "be employed in any capacity" in the district, I think, is really clear.
Okay. And I'm sure
And
that...
I'm not looking to get into a legalese
I'm
battle
sure
with you,
that
Bruce.
if you contacted the 4,000 attorneys in Allegheny County, you would hear varying disputes and disagreements about what the interpretation is. I think I'm being reasonable given what the case said and what's gone on.
I agree.
Again, you can correct it if you don't like the
And that's the
result.
point. That's
correct
the
it.
point of this.
I
So-
understand that.
So there are a couple.
Just as another example, if I may, under the current wording of our policy, the board could vote to outsource the hiring of our head football coach to Kelly Services or another outfit similar to that. I could then apply for that job and become the head football coach at Gateway as a school board member.
It's true.
These are the kind of things that I think the language needs to be in place to avoid. Does that make sense?
It made sense a half an hour ago. I
Okay,
think
so are we
everyone
ready to vote? I mean,
understands the
it comes
debate.
down to, if you think it's a conflict of interest, then the wording should be changed. If you don't,
So that's the
So
motion,
be it.
correct? The motion is to change the wording,
correct.
correct? That's where we are right now?
Could we?
Have we heard
Is there a
the
second on that?
change in the wording?
I-
That's my question.
Bonnie?
I
Second.
could have heard it an hour ago.
So could-
What's the wording in the change?
The wording in the change is to add to the end of the current policy, or work on site for the school district for any subcontractor for the district.
So she could still work for Kelly Services. She just could not
Correct.
work at Gateway
Not-
School District.
Yeah, not at Gateway.
In order to make that language change, that policy has to be placed on 30-day public display. So is
Correct.
that what we're doing today? Is that what we're trying to do?
We would need a motion to approve the language, then for it to go in 30-day display.
And then it would be voted on in 30 days.
Yes.
Okay. So,
So I would allow for public comment.
right.
Yes.
Okay, so we're voting on putting it on display.
So was there a second? Someone help me out.
Second.
Yeah, Mary
Yeah,
Beth.
Mary Beth,
Got
yes, we have a second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
No.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
No.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
No.
6-3.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
For the record, you probably should have abstained from
I
that.
was gonna say that. You probably should have
Any
voted on that,
other
Mom.
resolutions by board members at this time? Comments from residents on non-agenda items. Anybody signed up?
No.
Is there anybody in the audience that wish to address the board at this time on non-agenda items? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Alyssa Beck. What's the address?
To prove you live in Monroeville.
I live on Trotwood Drive in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, and our young daughters, our daughters graduated in 2010 and 2014, and they're doing well. And thank you all for the great job that you do, and all the teachers. I was waiting at the back of the line there. I didn't really know exactly what was going on tonight. I do have a question on one of the agenda items. I didn't realize it was on the agenda. It's section F, number 21, the artist and architecture, milling and paving bid specifications. Does the school district have a say in the consent decree, or are they required to do anything regarding the consent decree for stormwater management, as the municipality of Monroeville is?
No, I don't, you're talking about a stormwater or a sanitary sewer consent decree?
Well, it's a combination of.
Yeah, we don't regulate sanitary sewer lines.
Okay, so I was just curious if you're coordinating that with the stormwater management plan for the municipality, because the campus of Gateway has a lot of potential permeable pavement, green rooftops.
You mean we have to comply with whatever's passed by the municipality, certainly, but we don't regulate, we educate. We don't regulate stormwater or sanitary sewer.
I'm not asking if you regulate it, I'm asking if you're required to comply with the consent decree that the state has to comply with.
Yeah, the question's really open-ended. What would happen is if we were not in compliance, we would get a citation or notice from the municipality telling us that we're out of compliance. We've not received anything like that.
So let me rephrase the question. Is there anybody, any of the teachers, any of the school board members that are interested in working with wonderful stormwater management so as not to create runoff, and work together with the municipality of Monroeville?
I certainly am, absolutely.
That's beautiful. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there because there's a lot of opportunity here. That being said, I want to encourage everybody, all the teachers and everybody, to go to Boyce Park to see the wildflower meadow that's there. I'm just curious, like, has anybody been there yet? It's incredible. It's a sight to behold. There's brown-eyed Susan's 5 acres worth blooming right now, and it's magnificent. It would be really cool to see some cross-pollination between the school district and the Allegheny County Parks Foundation and the Master Gardeners who are managing it. Okay.
Sorry, is your name Alyssa?
My name is Alyssa.
Alyssa, is there a way for folks at home to easily get in touch with you, like an email?
Get in touch with?
With you. In other words, you just asked the question, is anybody interested? So if they were interested, could they send you an email?
Okay, well, that's a good segue into what I'm going to talk about next. So I founded a group called Sustainable Monroeville in 2010. So Sustainable Monroeville at Gmail, I will answer to.
Sustainable
Monroeville at gmail.com.
Sustainable Monroeville at gmail.com.
It's an email address.
Okay.
Or through the Facebook page.
Very good, thank you.
So that leads into the next thing that I'm here for. I'm wondering if the school district was informed about unconventional wells that are going to be drilled near Monroeville.
Once again, we don't have any regulatory authority over gas wells. I mean, that's again a municipal function. It's not a school board function.
Oh, I totally
We
understand that.
educate.
Okay. I've been advised, and I'm deferring to you, Mr. Dice, but I've been advised that the truck routes related to unconventional well pads near Monroeville are to be cleared, coordinated with the school board and the school district, so I'm wondering if that occurred, or if it's in process.
I have had no contact or information regarding that at all.
Okay, Mr. Short, I don't know what the protocol is for what the hierarchy is here, so I'm going to defer to you. And when you say you've had no contact, that means that you would be the one that would be contacted?
Typically, I would be, yes.
Because you were the principal of
He's
the high
the
school when I was
superintendent.
around. Okay, so
That would be me. I had dark hair at the time. I don't, yeah.
okay, so I just wanted to, I'm going to give this to you, Dr. Short.
Yes.
This is a map of unconventional well pads that are proposed or active within a very short distance of Gateway School District. And it's very disturbing to me. I just learned from council that the council of Monroeville had been advised, but we really didn't, there hasn't been any conversation about it. And the oil and gas ordinance is the council is not putting stipulations in that are for human health. So I'm just going to end with that, but I wanted to give Dr. Kalkstein, the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania Shale Gas Extraction and Public Health Resource Guide, and Dr. Short, I'll give you the unconventional wells near Monroeville. This was prepared by Mr. Little of the municipality.
Thank you. I have something to read tonight.
And the only other thing I wanted to add is that the Environmental Health Project recommends that if there are any schools within 5 miles of an unconventional frac pad and infrastructure, related infrastructure, that people should get onto the Environmental Health Project's health registry and report symptoms such as running eyes, burning eyes, asthma, different kinds of symptoms. So the Environmental Health Project is something to look into. And Ramsey Elementary, where our daughters went to school, is about 1 mile from one of the pads in Penn Township that's proposed. The municipal pool is 0.2 of a mile, and there's other schools and preschools very close. So it's something to that the community needs to be aware of.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address this board at this time?
Mark Wallace, 605 12th Street, Pitcairn, 59-year resident, actual taxpayer. I just wanted to congratulate the board for adopting a budget. I know that was a lot of work and a lot of difficult decisions, and I want to say, you know, based as a taxpayer and as a faculty member, we appreciate your labors in doing that, and so congratulations on passing the board. But I did want to ask a question about that. You know, we've been following the newspapers and got, you know, what we thought was great news that the state of Pennsylvania had allocated more dollars in a lot of areas that would benefit the schools. And I was just wondering if the final increases and how much additional money Gateway would get for basic education, special education, and security, if those numbers are available, and how much Gateway would be getting. I don't know if Mr. Schott knows that, or anybody, if you're willing to tell me that information, but what great news that is, that the Gateway School District and other school districts are going to get more money to fund their schools.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it great news by any sense
You
of
don't, you don't like extra money?
No, it's not great news. Essentially, in terms of basic education funding, based on the numbers released, the district's only gaining $100,334. That's not a windfall by any sense.
Oh.
And also, in terms of special education funding, we were told we were going to receive $23,559 extra. Now, the caveat that essentially the number calculated is probably going to change. This isn't even a final number.
So, the best of your knowledge, you're getting $125,000 extra dollars. What?
About $123,000. Now, there were some additional. There's a safety grant that's being made available. But in terms of the entire program, in terms of applying for it, that still needs to be laid out by the committee. That still needs to be appointed by the governor.
I appreciate that information.
We still need to stay tuned on that.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd like to say, representing the Gateway Education Association, that we continue to stand ready to negotiate. We've been without a contract for over 300 days, and we've been negotiating for 500 days. And we stand ready to negotiate as often, as frequently, as the board would be willing to. And we want to work hard to reach an agreement that's amicable for us as teachers, equitable for us as teachers, and something that the board can live with. And we think that we can achieve that if we can get together frequently and continue dialogue about that. So I hope, we're all here in fact tonight, our negotiating committee is here tonight, be willing to meet in 5 minutes if you like. We'd be willing to meet as often and as frequently and for whatever length of time in order to reach this agreement. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mark.
Anybody else wish to address the board?
Oh, clap for your hands.
Thank you all so much for being here today. I haven't been to a meeting for a long time for obvious reasons. I'm Nancy Lapsovich. I'm sorry. Start the clock, Bonnie.
I'll restart it.
For obvious reasons, I haven't been here for a long time. I'd like to thank Mr. Gottman for bringing that up about having the board vote on our money. I don't think we as taxpayers care if it's $100 or $100,000. It should be voted on. So I appreciate that you were speaking for the taxpayers and the citizens of the district.
Thank you.
John, I don't know. I think if a casino...
Nance, to be fair, neither do we.
Being a gambler, you're actually gambling as you're walking in the building here or walking down the street. I say if they're going to give us money, take it. Now, if the strip joint on 22 wants to give us money, think about that a little bit. But the money that we'll be getting from the casino was earmarked for us. It was actually earmarked for the homeowners, which we didn't get a check in the mail, but the school district does. I think it should be graciously accepted. There's more. If Mr. Schott would take a job with Plum, would that be a conflict of interest?
No.
You mean, would he resign or would he work for both?
No, if he worked both.
He's not on the
Well, Val's would be. If I would apply for a job as a school nurse and still work at the hospital.
Correct, that would not be a conflict.
Well, because I'm not on the board.
Correct.
But
if you were on the board of directors for that hospital and you took a job as a nurse, would
right,
that be a conflict?
It would be a conflict
Okay.
of interest. But I don't understand if Mr. Hall comes and gets paid as a football coach, plus is working in another district, is that not a conflict of interest?
In no way, no.
Because he's not on the board? So what you're saying and what you have gone over ad nauseum is, if you're a board member, you can't work for an outside concern or just a concern that's affiliated with the school district. B. I still don't understand. I still don't get that, since anybody on the school district would be paid. We're not being paid by the school district firsthand. It's a second or third hand payment. I don't see the problem. The last thing I have to say, am I running out of time there, Bonnie?
That's it. Time's up.
I have gone to 4 graduation parties since graduation, and I got to hand it to the board, the district, the teachers. I've heard nothing but good things. I mean, they know that I'm married to one of the school board members, and nothing but good things. And it makes my heart feel good. My friend Maria and I were with 9 other of our friends that graduated. And we still talked about the school and about the fun and about our educations. I just want to, as a taxpayer and a homeowner, again, thank you all. And I want to thank the board for the job they're doing. One last thing, another thing I had been asked at these graduations, why aren't the meetings televised on the night that they are? I've heard a couple different things. That was a lapse in my judgment one night not to come to that meeting. One thing I heard was they didn't want it public because there was texting from the board members back and forth. Made no sense to me, okay? The second thing that I found probable was this is around the time they were having the school shootings. God forbid every day, you know, they were having a school shooting. And some of the board didn't want the public to know they were actually here that night. I don't know if that's true or not. All I have to say is you have an armed guard out there with hopefully an armed gun with bullets in it.
Just to answer the last, no one has made any decisions about board meetings because of concerns for our safety.
This is before you were here, Jack.
I'm telling you, since I've been here, if someone
No,
want to weigh
let's-
in? Has
Since
anyone
you've
made
been
a
here, Jack,
decision?
we haven't been broadcasting.
No, this was before.
No, not that part. Is it because we're concerned for our safety?
Yeah, among other reasons.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And that's what some of these people and I myself.
Not all of us voted for that.
Correct.
Yeah.
I did not vote for that.
But I have a problem with that, and so did these people. When they knew there was a guard here, if they're good enough to protect our school, our teachers, our administrators, why aren't they good enough to protect you guys?
They are.
I mean, that was just the question that was brought up to me at these 4 different graduation parties all over the district. I told them I'd ask, that's what I'm doing. One more thing. The 17-year-old that was just killed. Whether you're a parent, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, significant other, kiss those kids every day when they come in. If they upset you, slap them on the head and give them a kiss. They have to know that you love them. I feel for their parents. I feel for any parents. My husband and I went through it. Didn't need to happen. Didn't need to happen. Some things we can't change. Some things we will never change. But if you have kids around you, I don't care how old they are. Okay, I'm 70. I still kiss my mother. She's 96. Kiss them and hug them. I think that's a lot that's lacking. Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay,
Nancy.
go ahead.
Anybody else wish to address?
I'd just like to say something briefly. There's a lot of brains in this room.
Could you go up to the, so the folks can hear from home?
My name's David Beisler. I live at 129 Pinner Drive. And I agree with Mark and I agree with the board about the negotiations, but you know, there's a lot of brain power here, folks. Let's figure it out. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else at this time wish to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move to board reports. Dr. Short.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. First off, congratulations to the retirement of all the employees listed below, and also for Mr. Pete Murphy, who I had the privilege of working with for probably 7 years up at Gateway High School. Pete has always and will be an advocate for children, and he will be sorely missed. He's left his mark on the high school, and we wish him well moving forward. Also, would like to thank all the administrators, the board, administration for their work on the budget. It is a complex, moving budget, And when I say moving, I meet daily with Mr. Schott, that informs me of ins and outs of money. And the work is painstaking. It goes on from the beginning of really November and December, and here we are at the end of June. Multiple hours, examining numbers. Typically, the numbers are not in our favor in public education. And just so the public is aware, Pennsylvania ranks in the bottom, probably 10% of states for public funding in education. That is a travesty. The state needs to increase their share and take the burden off of the taxpayers. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in education. Every year it becomes far more difficult to balance a budget, and you see that throughout the communities and the school districts surrounding us. Yesterday's headline, Plum furloughing 26 teachers with a tax increase. Riverview, amongst other school districts. These issues are real, folks, and they're going to continue to be real. We all need to work together to find an answer and a solution, and also hold Harrisburg accountable for our children, because they are our future. Thank you.
Dr. Jakey.
Nothing at this time.
Spunberg.
I too would just like to thank Mr. Williams, like to congratulate Mr. Pete Murphy. I've worked with him over the past several years, and I wish him well in his future endeavors. That's all.
Rawson.
Nothing further.
Schott.
Nothing further, thank you.
Crump.
Just a reminder to the teachers who were affected by the furlough, at the conclusion of the meeting, I will be sending out the open bid positions for you to take a look at. The meeting will be held tomorrow at 2 o'clock here at District Administration Office. If you cannot be here, Mr. Sample will be here as a representative. So if you need to contact him, feel free to email him. He will present the bid on your behalf.
Thank you. Mr. Dice. Mr. Ritter.
Sure, a couple things. The Pennsylvania budget was passed on Friday. The new budget prioritizes education and school safety. There's a House bill called 1448 that contains some omnibus amendments, and I'll just read a couple of them that on the top of my list. There's a delay in the graduation requirements. It extends the delay by Act 1 of 2016 and the implementation of the Keystone exams as a graduation requirement for an additional year until the 2021 school year. Number 2, executive session for security reason. This is a measure that allows public school entities to go into executive session in order to plan, review, or discuss matters related to school safety. That makes pretty good sense. I mean, you don't want to reveal what your plans are, where the cameras are in open session. You need to do that behind the doors. So they allowed in the legislation 1448 for such an executive session. But official actions, they go on to say, actually have to be held in an open meeting. So we're allowed to discuss it behind doors, but come out and reveal what actions we're going to take in public. Number 3, school security drills. This requires schools to conduct one school security drill per year within 90 days of the beginning of school year in each building in place of a required fire drill. Schools may conduct 2 additional security drills after the initial 90 days in place of the 2 required fire drills. Next, and this was just mentioned a moment ago, there's a school safety and security grant program under Senate Bill 1142. So that's what the meaning of this little piece of resolution was that we just did on my behalf a couple moments ago. I'm going to take this resolution, namely that I'm going to take it to the PSBA and try to get on their legislative calendar an advocacy for the use of telehealth and telemedicine, because one of the 22 measures that the school safety grants are going to cover has to do with, has something to do with mental health. So telehealth services and other types of telehealth or telemedicine could be brought to bear. So if we could get some sort of a grant brought in here so we could set up some sort of a station and use it to help prove whether what we've done here increases or decreases or keeps the same, the students' mental health and the students' increased mental health causes the schools to be safer, that's a good thing. Why not let's be a prototype here and test these things in our school district? And if it's not us, then model language could be developed for more rural school districts who don't have the nurse coverage or the local hospitals that we have here. So that's what I'm going to carry to the PSBA on our behalf. So it's all these things sort of play together. So anything else? Yes, the 22 categories, I mentioned that. So Scotty, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Boba.
Yes, just one quick thing. We have a lot of teachers here. One of the big subjects we're discussing is the utilization of buildings going forward. So I would welcome and invite anybody, any teachers who have any thoughts, contact me please through email and give me your thoughts on how we can best move forward with this surplus of classrooms and and quickly, because this conversation's got to move along. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Warning.
Thanks. As another school year ends June 30th, I just want to thank all the teachers, staff, administrators for everything you've done, again, for our kids. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work. I really appreciate everything that you're doing. To our graduating class of 2018, best of luck on your next step, what you plan to do, and just remember to keep Gateway proud. And parents, enjoy your kids during the summer. I've seen many parents out very frustrated that their kids are tagging along now. You know, they're not used to having them. Time goes by too quick. I wish I had mine that I'd still be dragging around. And to the parents that will be sending their kids off to college, it's tough, but they're always going to know where their home is. And with that, oh, one other thing. One of the board members just made a comment to me that I'm going to use it. Just bringing up this whole issue about me getting back into the district working or whatever. I guess my new slogan, or the slogan, could be "Keep Gateway Safe from Val Warning." So with that, I end.
I did say that. That's true.
Mr. Lafsovich.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hello, school teachers and citizens and everybody in the audience tonight, especially for my wife. Every time she goes up to the speaker, my teeth start grinning
It's
because
a conflict of interest. I know.
me and her never rehearse anything. It's her way or no way. But she always has good points in my eyes, and also she had a lot of good points tonight. But the main thing that stuck out in my mind is Antoine Rose Jr. that was fatally shot. It's not, he wasn't a student at Gateway, but I consider him a student everywhere in this world because I feel in my heart, well, I cannot make a comment on that, but I back his parents up 100% because it's going to be a long road for him and his mother and father. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Dr. Kalstein.
Nothing further.
Mr. Gottman.
Yeah, a couple things. One, just gets out of the way. The wonderful artwork behind me, I think it's been the same has not changed, which is a testament to our great artists. So I'm looking forward to new artwork starting the next school year. Other things, I do want to thank the public for taking it easy on me for my first few months with social media. I've been under the radar, which I like that, so let's continue it. But you know, more importantly, you know, these past few months I've been on school board. You know, it's my first time here. It's been an eye opener to learn the process and the operations of the district. And I know this school year we've had a lot of unfortunate downs, but at the same time we've had an equal amount, if not more, positives. I mean, we've had our athletic teams and our clubs represent this district in championship events. We have a performing arts program that has put on yet another excellent performance. And of course, our academic success, you know, our students' test scores going up, and I think it all yes, what she said, with the graduating class 2018, and if I'm correct on this, I believe that class, 50% graduated with honors or more. Is that correct?
I don't have
have the number in front of me, but
I heard it was
it probably
58?
could be accurate.
Yeah, it's pretty close. So that's impressive. And even though it's a very small part, I feel like I had a slight hand in that because before I was on board, I was a substitute here, worked with most of these teachers that we have here in the room, and the kids that were graduating, I believe I've had some of them in classes, and to be able to have that small part in their education and seeing them graduate, whether it was just their diploma or valedictorian, I feel very proud of that. And I am looking forward to the next school year. The programs that we offer are absolutely amazing. When I was there, like with Mr. Kalkstein, like with technology, like we were building the incredible folding stool, and now we got robotics programs. And I actually saw simulators to fly planes. It's very exciting to see what direction we're going in. I'm very excited for the next school year. So to wrap up this year, I just want to thank the administration, the faculty, the custodians, and the staff for everything that you've done. Enjoy the summer, and we'll see you in August.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. McIntyre.
I want to thank Mr. Schott, Doctors Chakey, Rossi, and Short, Mrs. Crump, everybody was involved with the extremely long process of the budget, which we pretty much get to start over again immediately anyway. But that was a lot of work to get that down to a zero, which I told you in the email, that's the best news I've heard in months. So I appreciate all the hard work on that. I want to let everybody know that there is a Gateway golf outing. It's the Coach Antti Marino fundraiser golf outing. There's a scholarship fund that basically the proceeds for this fund. If you want, you can contact Mr. Rossetti. He has all the information. I can't remember the numbers when he, I'm sorry, Ravesti. But it's July 26th at Meadowink. I plan on attending. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of bad golf for a really good cause. Outside of that, I just, a couple people brought up the kid that was shot in East Pittsburgh, and just being a Woodland Hills grad and somebody that grew up in Turtle Creek, and my father was a police officer. Didn't work necessarily in East Pittsburgh, but they all overlap. Everything that happened there was a tragedy, and having the experience over this weekend of driving Uber and Lyft, I came face to face with a lot of the protests, and folks, there's a lot of anger out there, and it's understood. It's, I can definitely see why it's there, but I think, like I said earlier on Mr. Rogers' birthday, we could all use a little more of that kind of kindness in the world. And just moving forward, when you leave here tonight, do something nice and unexpected for somebody, and try to spread that. For myself, I drove at probably 10 or 15 different protesters on Thursday night that they were blocking the parkway. They were calling for rides, and I was riding them home, and I basically canceled the trip and didn't accept any money for it. Gave them a free ride home, just as a general act of kindness. And immediately upon telling them that, the mood in the car changed drastically. So just one little thing, just hold a door up for somebody, be nice, do something, if somebody, buy a cup of coffee for somebody, spread a little bit of love to try and combat all of the anger that's out there right now. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Rucci.
I'm going to be nice and not have a board report. Have a nice summer.
Look for a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. I got some
Opposed, same
leftover
sign.
cookies, guys, cookies.
We're adjourned.
Take them home for the